So today it's gonna be a IFR flight from Dimmit County to Del Rio International. The IFR, you'll see soon why these are forecasts from the morning. As you can see, there are some thunderstorms, in the vicinity. The forecast was for quite a low-level cloud, so yeah, we could hug the ground and actually make it maybe, but already having some experience with the simulator where it really does not represent the visibility correctly if it's raining, I thought that the IFR flight would be safer. We'll get to the page now, to the weather. And first of all, let's just review the METARs and TAFs. So this is a series of METARs from Dimmit County, and what you can see is it's like the last hour and a half or so. The wind's been pretty consistent, right? So it's like from the south, it's about 15 knots, gusting 20. So there is definitely some wind. However, visibility is good. The clouds are more or less the same all the time, and the pressure is dropping, right? So the pressure dropping might actually indicate that some worse weather is coming our way. This one doesn't have a tab, so let's not do that. Let's look at the Del Rio International. Basically the same story. Pressure is dropping, but the clouds are more or less the same. Um, we either have like a broken or overcast layer at about 3,000 feet or 5,000 feet. However, the visibility is good and the wind is basically the same as in there. And the TF says that it should be like this, and we have a from group, so from 2100, just have some different clouds, but basically it's the same. Right, right, like it is, like the forecast is for now. For planning purposes, we need to know if we require to plan an alternate, and for that we have a 1, 2, 3 rule. So that means that if the forecast weather 1 hour before and 1 hour after our planned arrival is less than 2,000 feet ceiling, and or 3 statute miles of visibility, then we need to plan for an alternate. Since our forecast for our arrival is actually better, and let's see also this field, which is just 8 miles to the east, we have broken to 2, so that's just on the edge. 11 to 16, this doesn't concern us. 17, 18, broken 300, no significant grounds, but visibility is good. So basically, we don't need to file an alternate. We can always divert if we need to, but we don't need to file it. Now, let's get to this side. First of all, let's start with the observation, weather and observations. Let's see how it looks like on our planned route. And I will cover the route a little bit later. So this is a current state of it. As you can see, the visibility, this number is 10 plus. All around us, the visibility is good. Here it's just 9, and it's raining, so this is worse. The ceiling or the floor of the first like significant clouds is 3,100 here, 5,500, 5,000 and 3,400. And yeah, and the pressure is 2984, 2984, something like that. So this looks good. We'll check the clouds definitely, so we can see. And so we can see we have some layers here, and it's getting, I would say, slightly better over there, and especially with time. If I switch to 20 Zulu, the forecast is actually quite slightly better. So broken layers are exchanged with scattered or few, and 2100 Yeah, so maybe as time goes, it's actually going to be better. If I check the winds there, and these are surface winds right now. These are surface winds right now, and we can see that there are those gusts everywhere. And for example, 6,000 feet with winds like this, so it should be some kind of tailwind and then a crosswind as we fly. Let's check the thunderstorms. We should actually, as you can see, with with time going forward, the thunderstorms are moving a little bit away from us, so it should be quite fine. But of course, we'll look out for that. And turbulence, 6,000 feet. It should be some. Is it light? Light to like, oh yeah, basically light turbulence for aircraft. Yeah, so I think that weather-wise, we are all right to do that, and we can proceed. Now, let's go for the route planning. As you might notice, and I'll again switch maybe to the map there. As you might notice, there are actually no airways, right? And if I zoom out, it seems like nobody's actually flying on airways close to Mexico, right? So what we need to do instead is to find some other route. And today, I believe that it gives us a perfect opportunity to practice some NDB tracks. That's something that we don't usually fly nowadays, and because it's less precise, I would say. It's more difficult, and also NDBs are being like, there are only a few NDBs still in service across US. But as you can see, we have some here. So we have this La Pryor NDB and we have Spofford NDB there. And we'll make use of them to actually navigate like from one to the end to the other, and then we have a VORTAG here at Laughlin that will also serve as our initial approach fix. Yeah, so that is basically the route that I'm planning. As far as altitude goes, since we don't have any airways and we don't know the minimum altitudes, then we need to fall back to something called like minimum IFR altitude, and it's either the OROCA, which is the obstacle clearance altitude, which is depicted for each segment here. So here, for example, it's 4,700 feet. Here it's 18,200 feet. I wonder why that is, because the balloon that's going here is actually only to 15,000 feet. So technically, we should not be planning this if we are just crossing this small segment, below 18,200. In practice, I'm perfectly confident that the minimum vectoring altitude, which is the other, thing that ATC that you can consider as a minimum safe, minimum IFR altitude, that it will be lower in this area. So let's say that I plan for 6,000 feet to be in accordance with this number and also this number. And that means I'm planning to use 6,000 feet all the way to this VOR where we can start the approach and we can see some safe altitudes on the approach plates. So that's about the route there. And I also put this route here. DCTs means direct. Departure, this is kind of a slide with everything there. So let me take it one by one. So what's important for an IFR departure? Obviously, you need to check the weather, and you need to check it here, and you need to also when planning, and you also need to check it just prior to departure. You need to file a flight plan, including alternate if that's needed. You need to so let's actually do that so you can see how it's done here in vPilot. If I click flight plan here, I switch to IFR. I go to KCZT and KDRT, KDRT. Let me just verify. KDRT, KCZT, yes. Alternate no departure time, let's say that 1930. Time en route from my navlog would be about 36 minutes plus some, approach and that stuff. So let's say that I will put time en route. Well, actually, it should be 36. Let's say 46 or 45. I have a fuel for like 4 hours on me, but that's not important. True airspeed 114, cruise altitude of 6,000 feet. And I'm selecting even because we are going westbound, and the magnetic track is actually what determines what cruise altitude you should file. As far as the route, I will actually go here and copy, guess like this. All right, no remarks. Equipment suffix, I will again simulate an aircraft without a GPS. So that's going to be alpha here, and I'm going to file it. Flight plan filed. All right, so that's a final flight plan. Now determine runway and departure procedure. I have not included the airport diagram here, but we have runway 13 and 31. The winds are coming from the south, so we will definitely use runway 13. And that also tells us we need to determine a departure procedure. So it's an IFR flight. We can of course either depart. We can either depart VFR and get our IFR clearance in the air, or we can get our IFR clearance on the ground already. So if I am here on SkyVector on the Dimmit County page, I scroll down and I see we have some instrument approach procedures published. That means that some survey has been done, and also departure procedures are actually you might find some. Since this is an untowered field, you will never find any standard instrument departure procedure because that can be only assigned by ATC, which there is none at this airport. But you can check takeoff minimums. So if I go to takeoff minimums, and I search for Dimmit County, I can see that we have takeoff minimums and obstacle departure procedures. There are two sections here. There are departure procedures and takeoff obstacle notes. Takeoff obstacle notes is just a list of obstacles that are relevant to the runways that we're gonna use. And then departure procedures. As you can read here, we have a departure procedure for runway 31, and it says climb on heading 307 degrees to 1200 before turning left. And we don't have any departure procedure for runway 13. And what it means is that they determined that if we are able to keep our minimum climb of 200 feet per nautical mile, there are no obstacles, around us. There is no track, no heading, no ground track that we need to follow in order to be safe. We can go whatever direction we want. That is also given that we will start turning at 400 feet AGL the soonest. So you should not begin your turn until you are 400 feet above the ground. So there is no for runway 13, but we have 1431. So let me ask you. It says climb on heading 307 degrees to 1200 before turning left. So what does it mean? Let's say that we for clarity, I will just switch to VFR. Let's say that we are using runway 31, right? This is this one. We're going there to the northwest. What if we want to turn, I don't know, basically on our track here? What if we just want to take off and go here? What do we need to do according to the departure procedure? Any guesses?
So you want to turn right?
Yeah, I want to turn right.
So there's no obstacle there. So I guess you can just, as long as you can follow the minimum climb, if you just want to you maintain the heading, and then you just turn right whenever you want to.
So what will be my procedure? So I will depart. Let's say the runway heading is 307.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you do?
Would you
Pull
climb?
left and overfly the field?
No.
I probably climbed on that heading until I'm at least 500 above the highest obstacle in the area,
Mm-hmm.
and turn right.
And how do you know what's your highest obstacle?
From the chart.
Okay. Yeah, but basically what you can do is climb to 400, which is like AGL, which is this minimum turning altitude, we recommended turning altitude, and then you can turn right. And the reason is, if the procedure would require you to actually turn left, it would say climb on heading 307 to 1000, then turn left, and some heading, probably. So this, if you were turning left, then you need to climb at least to 1200. If you're turning right, it doesn't matter, and you don't need to. Don't need to climb to 1200. And the obvious reason is probably this city here, right? So if you want to go left, you need to be at least 1200 AGL, or actually, that's not AGL, that's actually MSL. So so it's like 600 feet AGL in this case, because the runway's elevation is 600 feet. All right. So remember, it's worded in this way, but really you need to heed that only if you're turning left. If you're turning right, you are all right. Okay, so that's the departure procedure. So we determine that, and it's our responsibility to fly that if we are flying in instrument meteorological conditions. And then we come to when to get the IFR clearance. Let's recheck what's the actual weather right now. And we have the ceiling at 4,100 feet. So theoretically, we can depart, fly below the clouds in VFR and VMC conditions, ask for a clearance, and only then we can, climb into the clouds. Remember, you can climb into the clouds or into IMC only when you have the IFR clearance, not before. So it would be up to you to either depart VFR. It's kind of easier to depart VFR and get IFR clearance in the air, but by all means we can do it on the ground if we have any ATC actually. The advantage if we are flying in the group to do the first to depart VFR is that they would not have any limits to the one in and one out rule that I will touch on a little bit later. When we are getting our clearance, we are following something called CRAFT, so clearance, route, altitude, frequency, and transponder, and it's always good to have a piece of paper, actually write that CRAFT down. Clearance would tell you your clearance limit. In 99% cases, it's your destination airport. Route will tell you, actually, let me use route will tell you the route that you are cleared for, altitude obviously, departure frequency, and the transponder, it's your squawk code. And I listed several options. So this section here is if you want to get the clearance in the air. So you just report where you are, at what altitude you are, and that you are requesting IFR clearance. They will first assign you a squawk code. When you have it, they will establish radar contact with you, tell you that either position is reported, or they will amend that, and then they will give you your IFR clearance. You need to repeat that. They will tell you read back correct, and from there on you can happily fly on what you have been cleared for. Another option is to get it already on the ground. And from the chart supplement for that airport, there is a clearance delivery phone, and it says that for clearance delivery, you should contact Houston ARTCC at this phone number. Of course, don't call there, please. On VATSIM, if there is an ATC, you just contact the Houston Center and get your clearance. Again, you say, basically the same thing. You obviously not saying the altitude, but you say that you are at Dimmit County Airport and you are like looking for IFR to Rio del Rio International. They will give you a clearance, and as part of that clearance, you can hear the words "hold for release." Because remember, this is an untowered field, so this means that you should not take off until you are released for departure. And then you read that back, and when you are ready, you have done all your checks and you are ready for departure, you are number one, at the hold short line, you will call that center again and you will tell them that you are ready for IFR departure, and then they can tell you something like this, what's the time that you are released for departure, clearance void time, that is something you need to read back, clearance void time, and then if not off by that time, that you should advise them. It can be quite a handful, but basically what you need to read back is, for example, November 123 Alpha Bravo is released for departure, clearance void at 1915 Zulu. I will report airborne, and the change to advisory frequency is approved. Yeah, basically here it is. Release for departure, clearance void at the time, and contact you by. There's something you don't necessarily need to read back, because usually they will tell you that they contact you by time. It might be like 10 minutes after, and then you tell them frequency change approved. For VATSIM purposes, the final section is the self-announcement. As always, if you are operating on the untowered field, and actually also in real life, because once the frequency change is approved, you again tune back to CTAF or Unicom here, and you need to self-announce that you are taking off and what are you doing. Any questions to the departure? Think not. All right, so in an IFR flight, you need to think about the approach a little bit sooner, let's say, than in VFR flight. And that's why I have some examples of radio calls here. What is a very good kind of practice is that when you are, established, and maybe you are even 10 minutes before your initial approach phase that you already planned for, then you would, either proactively ask the controller that you have an approach request, something like this, November 123 Alpha Bravo approach request, will tell you go ahead and you will request the approach that you want to fly. If you're nearing that airport and you haven't contacted the controller yet, they will also, contact you and either ask you or straight out assign you an approach. For the untowered field, again, they will need to hand you off the like radar services before you can make that approach and land. Again, the sole reason is that it's an untowered field, so again you need to self-announce your intentions. So it can look like either one of these two examples, how they can tell you that you are allowed to change to advisory frequency, or some combination of those two. They can of course vector you to the approach, or they can tell you, for example, if that approach for us would start, let's say, at this Laughlin VOR, then they could tell you something like November 123 Alpha Bravo cross Laughlin VOR at or above 6,000, clear, and whatever approach you are cleared for. And then you of course read that back. Actually, here the call sign should be at the end of it. Let me just correct it. That. So crossfix and your call sign in the end. All right, and then one in and one out rule. So in IFR to untowered fields, there is this rule that only one aircraft can be cleared for IFR departure or IFR arrival to one concrete airport at one time. In practice, if we are flying here in a group, that would mean that only one of us can be cleared for the approach at one time, and the others would need to, for example, remain in the hold somewhere, and wait until that aircraft either doesn't land and cancel the IFR plan, or cancel or finish or close the IFR flight plan, or they might cancel or close that IFR flight plan already in the air if the weather is good enough and they are certain that they are able to land. I will touch on that a little bit later. So that's one in and one out rule, which can be a complication in group flights on VATSIM, but there is a way around that, either VFR departure or VFR arrival as well. All right, here I thought that I will cover the magic of following the NDB. Is there someone who is not totally confident they can properly track the NDB radial?
Yeah, that'd be me.
Okay. Have you ever, flown using NDB?
No.
Okay, so it might be a maiden voyage for you, a maiden flight. So basically there are two methods what you can do in regards of NDB. And remember, this is your ADF instrument, so automatic direction finder. And that arrow there will point straight for the station. And it will point straight for the station in a way that if you turn your aircraft, this arrow will also move, right? Because it's still pointing straight for the station. Some ADF instruments have this ADF card. You can rotate it. There is a knob, but some do not. If you are not able to rotate it, it might be slightly more difficult to kind of interpret it correctly, because let's say that you are flying on a heading of, let's say here, you are flying on heading 030, and it points straight before you. That means that NDB is on the QDM, which is the magnetic bearing to the station, QDM of 030. But this instrument will point that arrow straight up, and it depends on you how you rotate it. So if you haven't synced this with your actual magnetic heading, that it will point to whatever else. So you just need to be careful, do not be kind of mistaken that if it's rotated like this and the arrow points straight up, then it's definitely not pointing to the north. It's pointing straight ahead of you, and that's the difference. So there are two methods that you can do. You can either track the NDB radial, which I will describe a little bit later, or you can home on it. The homing means that you keep that arrow pointing straight up at all times. What it results in is this ground track if there is any wind. Because you're pointing straight, right? The wind will offset you a little bit, so the needle, in this case, will move left. So you need to correct it. You turn a little bit to the left, so the needle still points straight up to the NDB, and this is your final ground track, which is obviously not very elegant, I would say. And this is homing. What's actually preferred is tracking it. And the left example is the tracking the QDM. It's a magnetic bearing 2, and the latter, the second one, is the QDR, which is the magnetic bearing from the station. So let's say that you kind of fly from somewhere, and you manage, and you want to follow the QDM of 030, which is 00302. And you somehow manage to point your aircraft at 030, and that arrow points straight up. So just need to imagine it's pointing straight up to the north here. That means that you are now on a correct QDM, correct magnetic bearing, relative bearing. But as you fly, because there is a wind, it will push you to the side. So you are still maintaining magnetic heading 030 because that's what you said, but suddenly you see that the arrow moved to the right. So what do you need to correct? In the aircraft, it might be difficult to actually imagine, what's exactly happening. So do I need to turn left or right, to get back on the track? And there is a simple like a helper sentence, and it reads push the head, pull the tail, right? So if it points to the right and you want to like the head is here, that means to get back on track you need to push the head. So in that case, turn into it. So it turns right, so you push it and you also turn right. And you turn right, let's say 20 degrees to regain track, because let's say that this is the relative bearing here. So you're flying and maybe after 1 minute, you notice that your relative bearing, changed, and that needle doesn't point straight up to the north, but it points to 010, which means like 10 degrees to the right. So you make a correction of 20 degrees, right? And you fly magnetic heading of 050, and you wait until that arrow actually shows 20 degrees to the left, because now you need it to point 20 degrees off of your heading because you want to regain 030. And when it does, so your magnetic heading is still 050, but the relative bearing is -20. So in this case 340 if the ADF card is straight to the north. So -20 is 340. Then you maybe start flying relative bearing of -10. Right, so you turn left again to magnetic heading 040, and now you establish wind correction angle now 10%. And again, you maintain the heading 040, and you watch what happens to your relative bearing. You know that since you are flying a 040 magnetic heading, and you want to be on a 030 radial to the station, that relative bearing needs to stay constant at -10, so 350 here. Let me just get the laser pointer here. So 350 there. If it moves again, then it's another time for correction, right? So let's say that you are not established like this on that radial, but you are established like this. And if you manage to catch that correct wind correction angle, that means that as you fly forward, that relative bearing will still point to 350 or -10 from your location or from your heading. And if it stays there, then you know that you have a correct angle. If it starts drifting right, that means you need to turn right, you need to push the head. If it starts drifting left, you know that you need to push the head again and turn left to kind of regain that bearing. The very same process happens if you're flying out of the, away from the station. That's on a QDR. The only difference is that now, in order to get the correction, you need to pull the tail. So let's say that again, we have wind from the right. You're flying, you want to fly 040 QDR. And after some time, you see that the relative bearing is now 165. That means -15, right? So it doesn't point straight down as you would expect, but it's actually pointing here to 165. So this is the head of your arrow, and here is actually, this is exactly that example, only the relative bearing is 150, not 165. And in that case, you need to pull the tail. So you need to turn right again, right? So pulling the tail to try to regain it. Here, in this example, the pilot turned 30 degrees to the right. It's pulling the tail to the right. And now shows relative bearing of 135. So let's say here. And since he turned 30 degrees, he's looking for the situation when the instrument will show relative bearing of 150, and that means that he is on that 040 radial again, because his magnetic heading is 170 and it needs to point 30 degrees off to be on that. And then he established a different, different wind correction angle, and again, which is the needle, what it does. And I don't know if it makes any sense to you. It's definitely not easy to grasp on the first hearing, but today you have a chance to practice it, and then you can review, the flight from some movie, from some map, how you did, if you have any tracking software.
Okay.
Any questions to it?
No, I have none.
Okay.
No, just matter of doing it.
All right.
I think I just will just adjust the ADF card and then the needle. If you adjust the ADF card to your current heading, it should show the radial inbound and radial outbound.
Exactly.
Is that right?
So
Okay.
let's take this example here. So if I turn that to show 070 here on top, that means that I'm really looking for when that tail starts pointing at 040, right? Here. So if I move it, but the relative bearing stay the same, right? The difference. If you have a rotatable card and you want to do that, it's kind of simpler because you don't need to calculate that much. You really turn a 070 magnetic. You also set 070 on top of here. And when that tail is on 040, you know that you are there.
Yep. So
Exactly.
in the end, you can just maintain the card on your current heading, and you can always tell what radial you are on.
Yes.
If you can imagine where you are laterally, you can tell if you have to turn left or right for.
Yes, it's simpler.
the...
That's why they introduced, the turning cards as well. However, you need to remember that when you are flying and you like changing the heading slightly, right? Because you can't fly completely straight. Wind will, kind of do some things with you. And every time the wind does that, you either keep it in sync, which is impossible, or you need to, really verify the bearing at the exact moment that you are actually on the correct magnetic heading. And then another, issue comes into that. If you don't have an HSI that is magnetically kind of bound to like a compass in the wing, for example, you also need to sync your heading on your directional indicator or on directional gyro with your magnetic compass. So a lot of stuff to do. So we need to have this synced instrument, like either HSI or directional gyro needs to be synced to your magnetic compass. And then you need to, sync, the ADF according to directional gyro or magnetic compass. Just remember that the only time the magnetic compass shows correct value, the wet compass, is in a straight, level, and unaccelerated flight. So you must not like descend, or you must not climb, you must not accelerate, you must not, decelerate. And you must have your wings level. That's the only time that the wet compass, the magnetic compass, shows correct value.
Okay. See where I end up.
All right. I have two approaches here. One is VOR and the other is ILS. Me personally, I will do the VOR approach because, as you can see, it's kind of simpler. From the Laughlin VOR, you can fly, 269er. It's like 8 miles only. And then you do the circling maneuver to land if the weather, is good enough, which currently it is. If you're flying ILS, then again we started Laughlin, but then we have like 13 miles here. Then we need to fly here, make a turn, and come back and land, which is more troublesome. And also, if we are flying in the group, we can kind of meet here. One's flying there, the other is flying, back. That's, by the way, one of the reason only one aircraft in real life is cleared for an IFR approach to one field at the same time. so they actually don't collide. So let me brief this VOR procedure first. So we check the vortex frequency, and it's based on the Laughlin here. We check the final approach course. It's a 269 degrees. We don't have any runway landing and touchdown zone elevation because the only, you can tell it from the name of the approach, is VOR alpha, so no particular runway. So we don't have any particular runway to be there. We only have airport elevation, which is the highest point on the runways, runway environment. We will read the notes that the circling is not available for CAD-D, which we are not. If local altimeter setting not received, we need to use a Laughlin Air Force Base altimeter setting and increase all MDAs by 40 feet. These are MDAs, minimum descent altitude. As far as how to fly it, we will be arriving from here, right? We will be arriving from here, and as I already hinted before, we will be keeping at 6,000 feet of altitude because the minimum or rogue altitude is 5,900. And as you can see, the descent that we can start it comfortably is 4,000 feet. So first we need to lose some altitude. So we will use this holding pattern to actually lose the altitude. And also, since the holding pattern is depicted here, it means that it's a mandatory procedure. So even if we were flying from here at 4,000 feet, if we are not cleared for a straight-in approach, we still need to do at least, one holding entry here. Remember that. If it's depicted, it's mandatory unless you are vectored for a final approach course, or you are cleared for a straight-in approach. And straight-in approach doesn't mean like straight into the runway, so in the direction of runway. That really means do not do this procedure turn or halt in lieu of procedure turns. So I will come at 6,000 feet. When I reach that VOR, who can tell me what kind of entry I should is recommended if I'm flying from here? Is it direct, parallel, or teardrop?
It's direct.
Direct, yes. So I will overfly that VOR and start the right-hand turn, standard rate turn. When I cross this VOR beam, that means when my to and from indicators, flips, because I have, by that time, I will have that course or OBS set to 269er. If of course, I'm flying to the VOR, so before I cross it, I will have it on whatever course will take me there. And when I cross it, I will switch to or turn it to 269er. Then I will make that standard rate turn. And when I'm abeam of that VOR, that means that the to from indicator will flip. I will start my timer. I will fly for 1 minute and then do the standard rate turn there. On the turn back, I of course will either make like a less bank or more bank, so I can capture, this course. If I already know, from which direction the wind is blowing, and I believe it was from the south, if I remember correctly, I can do already some, wind correction angle already here on the outbound leg, and then I will fly in. Again, when I turn on that course, I will start the timer again, and I will time 1 minute because there are 1 minute holds. If I am able to descend all the way to 4,000 feet on that one circle, then I can, go for the approach and continue. If not, then I will do one more turn or one more pattern until start descending. This Laughlin vortex serves as a final approach fix, which is depicted by this X here. And from there, we can descend all the way to our minimum descent altitude. In theory, we can descend like we can reach this for 4,000 feet, then we can drop like a rock, to 1,780 and just fly level all the way to the missed approach point if we don't see the runway. The missed approach point is defined here as the kind of, basically 7.8 miles DME from Laughlin VOR. So if we keep on that 269er, radial and our DME shows that we are 7.8, and we don't have the runway environment in sight. We need to do the missed approach procedure, which is, in this case is climbing right turn to 4000 via heading 340, and then right turn direct DLF, direct Laughlin Vortex. Yeah, and it's climbing right turn to 4000 via heading, then the right turn direct. I'm not sure if I need to climb all the way to 4000 on that heading and only then make a turn, but I don't believe so. Right turn to 4000 via heading. Then I believe that if I were allowed to turn like direct vortex before 4000, it would say climb right turn 4000 via heading 340 and right turn direct. I'm not sure, to be honest, how to read it properly. Sorry for that. Actually, yeah, it says here. Yeah, I believe it's like that. You need to reach 4000 on that heading, and then only you can make a right-hand turn. Let's go with that. That makes more sense here. It would be worded differently if it was different. So, and we have only circling approach. However, we don't want to drop like immediately. So let's say what we need to cover, and what it gives us. So what kind of descent angle this is. So we have 8 nautical miles. And in those 8 nautical miles, we need to lose a certain altitude, right? So we need to lose 2,220 feet in 8 nautical miles. That means that per mile, we need to lose at least 284 feet per mile. Is feet per nautical mile. In order to lose 284, feet per nautical mile, we are someplace there, and the vertical path is like 2.7 degrees. And that means that if we are, for example, our ground speed is 120 knots, that means that we need to maintain a 574 feet per minute descent. If we are, of course, slower, then the descent is also slower. Yeah. So we should be at least, maintain at least that one, to descend. We can be a little bit faster. So let's say that I want to do a 3-degree angle. I just need to level off at 1,780 feet and then continue if I don't see the runway. The weather today suggests that we will see the runway, before, maybe also already from here. We'll see it's 4,000 feet. So whenever you see the runway, you can basically switch to the visual procedure, because the circling is a visual procedure, and you either maneuver yourself to runway 31. In that case, remember your descent needs to be a little bit steeper, because this is just to lose, to get ourselves to like 800 feet above ground. That's what I counted. But the wind will favor runway 13 most likely. So in any case, we will come here and we'll do the circling maneuver here and land. So there's like a no danger that we would not be able to descend like we wanted to. All right, and again, don't forget to make calls. So when you are released from the center frequency, if there is any, that means that you start making calls. And don't tell that you are on a VOR approach. That doesn't have any information or any valuable information for any VFR pilot there. So in that case, you say, oh, I'm 8 nautical miles, to the east at 4,000, descending towards the airport, or something like that. I made a comment here, a CDMA procedure, because as I told you, either slam dunk it down below, and if you have some step descents, you can either descend and drive, or you can continuously descend and kind of mimic, all the way to the runway, kind of mimic the ILS a little bit, and that's called like continuous descent to the missed approach Yeah, continuous descent to missed approach procedure. So if we have like localizer, like here, for example, even if you don't have a glide slope, you can calculate it in a way that you would kind of mimic the glide slope and don't do like a steps down. So it's not really applicable for the VOR approach here because it doesn't have any concrete runway to descend to. But I just wanted to mention it. All right, it's quite almost an hour. Sorry for this long brief, but in IFR flights usually takes a little bit longer to brief it. What about the ILS? Is there someone who would like to fly ILS instead of the VOR approach? Or are we all flying VOR approach today?
I can VOR approach. I normally fly ILS, but now today it's VOR.
Okay. Okay. So let's do VOR. Okay, final note here is that when I take off, or when we take off to the southeast here, we can make like a left turn and then try to establish ourselves to the QDM to La Prior. When we reach that, we turn left. And how do you know that you reach that if you don't have any DME? You know it simply. The needle becomes very sensitive, and at one point it actually flips. So when it starts to like turning, you know, you're flying that NDB, you know, straight up or a little bit, you know, offset to the right or left based on the wind, and when you're flying like a constant heading and it starts to move quite fast, then you know that you are above the NDB, and it's time to turn. Then you establish yourself on the QDR from this, and fly that QDR, and then at halfway point, which you cannot know like from the DME, but since you prepare your navlog, then you know how long it should take, you know, to reach the midpoint. At which point you switch to this one and fly the QDM towards this point, towards this NDB. And again, the same procedure. And in the meantime, you can also tune in this VOR and actually configure it, you know, so when you are like to some rough course, and when we are flying over this NDB, again, you know that from the very sensitive needle, then you alter the OBS to actually get you direct, you know, to the VOR, and then you follow the VOR track. I have not covered that because I believe that people are more familiar with how the VOR instrument works, so that should be easier. All right, and then as I said, when you are reaching that VOR at 6,000 feet, you overfly that, you change that to 269er, the OBS to 269er, or you can have it, you know, tune it to 269er on the second navigation radio, and you make that procedure turn entry, and you either manage to descend to 4,000 or not. And again, it's not required to be at 4,000 feet before you start the descent. It says 4,000 or above. You just will need to, if you're like 4,400, you can still start that, but you need to go a little bit steeper. That's all to it. That's all there is to it. All right. Any questions? And I know that it's been quite heavy today and long. If no questions, then as always, I do encourage everyone to fly. If for some reason you don't want to or don't feel like it, I will be streaming that on Twitch. Actually starting right now. So feel free to stop by there. And I'll be there throughout the whole flight. So if you have any questions during, feel free to ask, or after. And happy flying. I already did the pre-flight check there, so as not to lose the time, and we can proceed to starting the aircraft. And we have filled our tip tanks to the brim, so we'll actually use them initially. So let me switch to them. Oh no, I don't want to update spot next at this point. See, okay, yeah, so right tip and left tip, good. Let's switch to battery. What is this sound? Well, let's get to it. So mixture full, crack the throttle, tune in the fuel pump, look for fuel pressure. It's building, good. Primer, so 2 times. Beacon should be... Okay, what is actually... Oh, rotating beacon is that loud. Good. Or strange. Right. That's turned off. And we can start the engine there. So, clear prop. Nobody around. Okay. Let's try it again. Right, good. Let's look for oil temperature. Put our headphones on. Fuel pressure, oil pressure is in the green. Very good. Let's close this. I'll open some vents. So there's some air coming in. Very good. Turn on the avionics. And this radio as well. Good. Now let's see what kind of frequencies we will need. So the first one will be a 223, and this is ADF. So 2. Okay, that's funny. 2 to 3. Okay, I can switch that, and the other one will be 356. All right. Mode. Okay, timer. No. ET. Okay, have I switched something badly? All right. EDF. Yes. Okay, so okay, this is switch flight estimated. Good. Okay, so I can somehow, I guess, reset it in a way. All right, that's this one. Then also I will need to tune in the VOR, which is 114.4. So first do it here, 114.4. And also the other one, 114.4. Good. I will switch this here to distance.
Dimmit County traffic, November 36 Echo, 5 Papa Arrow on the ramp, taxi to runway 13, Dimmit County.
Right, I will generate the latest navlog there. Speed 135. Okay, so let's do 135. Yeah, actually, let's do 135 and navlog. And the most important will be like time here. Should take 14 minutes. Okay. All right. Guess I can tune that in or off. I will verify if I can tune my... Do I have ADF card? Yeah, there it is. Okay, so it's gonna be funny. It's kind of on the side. Nice. Yeah, I have a lot of fuel. I have a lot of fuel there and there as well. Yeah, looks good. Dimmit County traffic, Oscar Kilo Golf Charlie Romeo is on the apron, Piper Comanche and taxiing to runway 13, Dimmit County. And I will switch my code to 2000, which is like a generic code for IFR flight plan. Let's release the parking brake. I forgot to lean the mixture on the ground there. Switch on the navigation lights as well. Going completely in the wrong direction, which is very good of me. So let's actually turn here. And this is the runway. I don't want to enter the runway. I cannot really turn into the wind here. Or can I? Well, at least slightly maybe. No, I won't do it. I'll just stay here. So toes on my brakes, full mixture. The oil temperature is in the green, good. So 2000 RPM it is. We'll verify all engine instruments are in the green. Yes. So right magneto. Yes, slightly more drop than usual, 150. Left magneto. It's still within the limits, I say. We'll cycle the prop.
Dimmit County traffic, arrow 3 technical, departing runway 13, flat out departure, Dimmit County.
Alright. And idle. Okay, that works. Flight controls. Yeah, looks good. Hello guys. Right, so fuel pumps go on, landing lights, strobe lights go on, landing lights go on, depart right. Actual landing lights can still be off. Trim. Neutral. So we're gonna turn left after departure and we'll try to get on the 352 magnetic bearing. Yeah, so magnetic QDM to 352 towards the station. But of course we need to catch that. I'll need to do this. It's slightly to the north, so about there. Heading of the runway 13. All right. Dimmit County traffic, Oscar Kilo Golf Papa Charlie, taking off runway 13 and then left hand turnout, departure to the north. Dimmit County. So landing lights.
Dimmit County traffic, Arrow 36 Echo, upwind runway 13, 1800, climbing 8000, departing northeast, correction northwest, final call, Dimmit County.
All right, let's go for it. Airspeed is alive. Get that speed. And let's go up. Positive rate of climb. Gear is going up. Both RPM and my manifold pressure a little bit. Alright, turn left here. Fuel pump goes off. Landing lights off. Yeah, you got that NDB, good. Start the timer now. Dimmit County traffic in the position of left downwind runway 13, climbing to 6,000 feet, and final call. Dimmit County.
Dimmit County traffic, Skymaster 12908 Sierra taxiing runway 13 for northbound departure, Dimmit County.
Alright, so 352 should be the magnetic bearing. So let's turn there and let's see what the ADF pointer shows us. Okay, it's to the right. So I need to push the head. Actually, it's straight ahead. Okay. So let's get to 3... 5.2 as well. And let's see what that does. 3,000 feet, so I'm gonna lean the mixture slightly. But the temperatures are still pretty high, so I'll just go easy on it. Also turn off the landing gear there. Pitot heat, I don't need pitot heat. Good, climbing away.
Dimmit County traffic, number 12980, Skymaster departing runway 13, departure to the northwest, left downwind, Dimmit County.
Okay, we'll just add the mixture back to kind of cool that temperature a little bit and increase the airspeed to get some better cooling. Yeah, that did the trick. Okay, still more or less in front of us. Yeah.
Dimmit County traffic, Skymaster 12980, turning left crosswind 13, 1,800, climbing 6,000, headed northbound, Dimmit County.
Alright, still climbing.
Dimmit County traffic, Skymaster 12980, turning left downwind, runway 13, 2,400, climbing 6,000, northbound, Dimmit County.
And we are at 6,000, so let's level off. We'll remove some RPM there to 1900. I don't want to climb anymore. And we are in the cloud. Let's check what our ADF is doing. Yeah, pointing straight up. but not on 352, so right, so leaning the engine a little bit, that's about that, good. Now I kind of need to sync my I need to sync this magnetic compass, but that is kind of crazy. Yeah, it's moving quite a bit in that turbulence. So hard to say where I am exactly. Can always cheat and hit a D, but what fun would that be? Yeah, I believe we are like about 350. We are actually probably there, so let's keep it like that. Time 8 minutes, and we should be there in 10 minutes or so.
Dimmit County, Cessna 172, Sierra Bravo taxi for runway 13.
Let's see, it's slightly to the left now, so let's try actually in that direction. I'm very close to it, so it doesn't make much sense to kind of get exactly back on track. Ah, sorry. And then we'll try flight 284 afterwards. That would be a KDR. Okay, see that needle? So turning to 284. So I need to pull the tail a little bit. Okay, so I'm flying about 25 degrees to the left. So when that deflection is 25 degrees, I'm at the correct radial and I will try to get there. And I need to get a little bit lower there. Actually, it would be quite good for a VFR flight, but it's also good practice. It's actually 30 degrees right now and it's there, so let me turn back. Oh, and I didn't reset my timer. Okay, so let's reset it now. And it's been done about 2 minutes after. Totally forgot. For my magnetic compass there. It's quite stable and I believe it's pointing more or less where I want to. So let's say what the ADF card says. Okay, it says that I need to pull the tail, so I'm still slightly left. Or south. Okay, let's actually turn to the correct one here. Oh, it's pointing straight down. Maybe slightly pull the tail. So actually, let me try to fly 290. I've also set my ADF card to 290. And the needle should point to 284. Was it? 284, yes. It's pointing to 284 right now. Okay, so let's fly like this and see what happens. At 6,000 feet.
Lost on air, the traffic Skymaster 12980 over the La Pryor NDB, headed westbound for the Spofford NDB at 6,000 feet. Estimated time en route, 18 minutes. Lost on traffic.
It's keeping, yeah, it's actually 2.6, so it's actually to the right to pull the tail. Actually, I need to turn left a little bit. Trying to fly to 80. wait until that needle points back to 284. No, 286. Also like 5 minutes here, and I should switch to that other NDB. Actually moving more to the right, so I need to make bigger correction. So let's turn to 70. Okay, not this one. Turn to 70. And it's 5 minutes, so I can switch to that other NDB. And I totally forgot to ident that, so let's do that now. 356. Okay, I cannot do it here. Actually don't know how to ident the ADF in here. I will need to read the manual. In any case, it should point to 284, which it does not, and need to push the head left. 290. Okay, let me try to get it straight. Yeah. Push the head, so been flying badly. So I will find out on what radial we are. 30, and I need to be on 284, which is quite a thing away. Okay, so I'm gonna fly that one and wait until it gets there. If I fly 30, try to keep it level. It's pointing to 290. which means I need to go right.
Upland area traffic, Skymaster 12908 Sierra, east of the Spofford, NDB 6000. Estimated arriving at Spofford at 15 past the hour. 6,000 feet, airspeed 130 indicated, loss on traffic.
Now it's showing 284, so let's turn to A4. Actually, let's tune to 904. Are completely off again. Okay, not that good flying NDBs. We are also quite close, so just try to get there. So we are to the north of the NDB slightly, but I'll let it be because we will be turning to VOR anyway. Yeah, right about now. So reset that.
Hey Josh, it's Artie here. Can you hear me at all?
Should actually get to it.
I hear you,
right.
Josh, I can't get this little Cessna off the ground. All my flaps and trims, I've turned the computer off, restarted it, and I'm just back as my trim is way out of whack. I can't get my flaps back up. They're right down, and I don't know what the problem is with this aircraft. Don't know. Maybe there's a bug in it somewhere. I'll just have to set this one out, which I didn't want to do because it's my first one to fly VORs and what have you. And I thought I had my head around it until the aircraft is not flying. So I don't know. Until I can work it out, I don't know what to do with it.
Is it the default Cessna?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. It sounds like it's like a bug or something, or you've got a bad keybind or something's going on. But yeah, it's a shame. But best of luck getting that sorted out. I know the simulator stuff. Simulation is 50% technical troubleshooting and 50% actually getting to fly. So I feel your pain.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was just going to sit here and watch your live stream, and at least I'll enjoy it that way.
Okay, feel free to.
I'll be riding along.
Thomas, the guy who's hosting it, the main instructor, he's hosting it on Twitch as well. I think if you click on his name, I think it has the Twitch link. I'll post it in the group flights for you too, so you can, if you want to check out his stream as well.
Yeah, I might do that. Thanks, mate. I appreciate it.
All right, no worries.
Catch you later.
select 269er.
Laughlin area traffic, Skymaster 12980 over the Spofford NDB at 6,000 feet, proceeding direct to the Laughlin VOR at 6,000 feet, estimating arriving at Laughlin Vortac at about 6 minutes. Laughlin traffic.
And what are we estimating? Minutes. So again, 6 minutes as well. I must be very close. So just pull up the VOR plate there. So we'll join overflight this at 6,000 and then do the direct entry. I will be descending to 4,000 feet in the hold. And also before arriving I should already slow down to like 120 knots to get me on my final approach speed there.
Laughlin area traffic, November 36 Echo, Piper Arrow, holding over Laughlin VOR at 8,000, descending in the road to 4,000, Laughlin.
Okay, so they are at 8,000.
And aircraft calling over Laughlin VOR, your mic was pretty low in volume. Cessna 12980, 15 miles east of Laughlin VOR 6000, direct to Laughlin VOR.
Laughlin area traffic, Arrow 36 Echo, holding over the Laughlin VOR 7,700, descending in the hold to 4,000, Laughlin.
And Laughlin air traffic, Skymaster 12980 copies the traffic. We will remain clear of the VOR until you're clear of the holding pattern for Laughlin traffic.
In Laughlin traffic, Oscar Kilo Golf Papa Charlie, I'm 7 miles away from east of the VOR at 6,000 feet, flying to it.
Laughlin traffic, Skymaster 12980, we're going to go ahead and climb up to 8,000 feet for our traffic vehicle selection, Laughlin traffic.
Laughlin traffic, Piper Arrow in the holding pattern over the Laughlin VR. Say altitude, please.
Laughlin area traffic, Arrow 36 Echo, altitude is 6,400, descending 4,000. Laughlin area traffic.
Climb a little bit.
Laughlin area traffic, Skymaster 12908 Sierra, 8 miles to the east of the VOR, 7,400, climbing 8,000, will be number 3, I believe, into the airport, Laughlin traffic.
Laughlin area traffic, Oscar Kilo Golf Papa Charlie is overhead the VOR at 6,600 feet on QNH 2982 and will be entering the holding pattern there.
Laughlin area traffic, Arrow 36 Echo, still holding over the Laughlin VOR for another round, currently at 5,500, descending 4,000, Laughlin area traffic.
Laughlin area traffic, Skymaster 12908 Sierra, 5 miles to the east, 8,000. We'll hold over the Laughlin VOR. We're number 3 in the holding pattern. Aircraft exiting, just please advise when you're out of the pattern. We'll descend lower. Laughlin traffic.
Laughlin area traffic, Arrow 36 Echo, Roger, will advise on a key of the pattern, of the holding pattern, Laughlin area traffic.
Laughlin area traffic, Oscar Kilo Golf Papa Charlie, the Comanche currently descending within the holding pattern from 6,200 to 5,000.
Laughlin air traffic, Skymaster 12908 Sierra over the Laughlin VOR 8000, entering the holding pattern. Laughlin traffic, QNH 2982. And Laughlin air traffic, Skymaster 12908 Sierra for the Comanche, just if you could advise when you're down to 5,000 or so, we'll start our descent to 6,000 then.
Roger. Fuel pump on, landing lights on.
Dublin area traffic, Arrow 36 Echo, exiting the holding pattern at 4000. Proceeding on the final VR Alpha approach. Awesome traffic. Rio traffic, Arrow 36 Echo, 8 mile final for circle to land, runway 13, W.
Laughlin area traffic, Oscar Kilo Golf Papa Charlie left 5000, descending to 4000 in the holding pattern.
Laughlin area traffic, thank you, Skymaster 12908 Sierra, beginning descent out of 8000 for 6000 in the holding pattern over Laughlin 4 TAC. Laughlin area traffic.
Okay, I wasn't able to establish exactly the wind correction angle because my hold entry procedure was very bad. So the weather destination 2979er actually, so let's correct it. And the wind, yeah. Okay, let's level off. Let's turn back. So what is our speed?
Rio area traffic, Arrow 36 Echo on a 4 mile final for right traffic pattern on bay 13, W.
Badly flown. Yeah, I'm not proud of today's holding procedures. This is it's not good at all.
Laughlin area traffic, Skymaster 12908 Sierra over in the holding pattern over Laughlin at 6,500 descending 6,000. Laughlin traffic.
Rio traffic, Arrow 36 Echo, entering right downwind runway 13, W.
Del Rio traffic, Oscar Kilo Golf Papa Charlie, Comanche. 8 miles to the east of the airfield, we'll be doing a circle to land procedure to runway 13. Del Rio.
And for the Comanche inbound to Del Rio, Skymaster 12908 Sierra, say altitude.
Altitude is 3,600 feet and descending.
Roger, thank you, Skymaster 12908. Sierra is at 6,000 in the Laughlin Vortex holding pattern, descending 4,000 now, setting up for the ILS runway 13 approach. Laughlin traffic. Into Del Rio, Laughlin traffic.
Del Rio traffic, R36 Echo, turning right base, runway 13, Del Rio. Del Rio traffic, R36 Echo, turning final runway 13, full stop, Del Rio.
So I see the airport. And the circle actually doesn't want to descend. That's the gear horn. As I pulled the power too much. Actually, if I pull it forward, it should actually... Yeah, it should actually increase the descent. Yeah, which I want. Del Rio traffic, Oscar Kilo Golf Papa Charlie entering left downwind runway 13, Del Rio. So fuel pump is on, yep. Brakes, pressure is there. Let's do first notch of flaps. Landing gear down.
Del Rio traffic, R36 Echo, runway 13 located, taxiing to parking, Del Rio.
We'll do just the flaps to
Del Rio
landing
traffic,
today.
Skymaster 12908 over the Laughlin Vortex at 4,000, entering, or heading on a westerly heading to intercept the localizer runway 13 for the ILS approach. Del Rio traffic.
Carburetor is on, yeah, carpet. Del Rio traffic, Oscar Kilo Golf Papa Charlie, turning left, base runway 13, full stop, Del Rio. Let's do second notch of flaps. Landing lights are on, yes. Del Rio traffic, Oscar Kilo Golf Papa Charlie, turning final, runway 13, full stop landing, Del Rio. I will put carb heat off, because I need to go around. Everything forward, landing gear
Rio
is
traffic,
down.
Grandmaster 12, 8 Sierra is about 5 miles to the northeast, 4000 descending. We'll enter a wide left base for runway 13. We have the traffic on final inside Del Rio traffic.
All right.
Del Rio traffic, Skymaster 8 Sierra, 5 miles to the northeast, just next to the lake at 2,800, descending on about a 5-mile left base, runway 13, full stop, Del Rio.
Del Rio traffic, Oscar Kilo Golf Papa Charlie, runway 13 is vacated, taxiing to parking, Del Rio. So landing lights, strobe lights, fuel pump off.
Del Rio traffic, November 8 Sierra, turning about 5-mile final, 13, full stop, Del Rio.
right, parking brake. Let's see, navigation lights off. Rotating
W
vehicles
traffic Grandmaster 12
keeps
Area
on.
Sierra, short final 13, full stop, Del Rio.
That's good. That is good. So avionics off, master switch off, throttle mixture. Beacon can go off. Fuel tanks off. All right. So I'm not particularly proud of myself today for how I flew that beacon, and I believe that if I do this and kind of try to type it in, then you'll see what I'm talking about. So the first one was actually quite alright. I was able to keep more or less straight line and cross it directly than I
Nice
needed
one,
to.
Josh.
And then, yeah.
Thank you. It was a little bumpy there over the tree line.
So somehow I was able
Just a
to
wee
kind of
bit.
keep
Just a
close.
little. Had to give a little bit of power at the end there. I was going to stall it onto the ground, but saved it.
Yeah, nice work.
Thank you.
And I think I solved my problem with the ailerons. I think when I turn the radios on and whatever, and then I put my coordinates and whatever, then you've got a vertical speed dial. You can set your rate of climb. And once I set that up to about 500 feet per minute, then I got outside the aircraft and I go, I think.
Okay, so yeah, so that was all right. These holding patterns, you can see that was horrible because the wind was coming from the south and I did not do correction on here. So these turns were too quick and always kind of I needed to chase it and only at the last moment. Final approach course I'm actually happy about, as well as the landing. That's kind of nice there. But yeah, I could definitely use some improvement. This was really not good. I believe I just lost myself there in the bearings. But all right, I'm glad that you watched this. Let's also secure the aircraft a little bit, and then we can end it. So I'll just put the wheel chokes and tie downs and pitot cover, and I can turn off the parking brake. We used about 10 gallons of fuel on this trip, which is quite all right. All right, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, bye bye.